Welcome to Rockingham Speedway here in Corby, where we're looking at the Armed Forces Race Challenge. In this programme we're going to be covering the action-packed races. The grid comprises of a huge variety of different production vehicles, so we're going to take to a very fast oval track combined with a tight and twisty infield section. It's going to be exciting, so I'll hand you up to our race commentator Andy McEwen for race 1.
Thanks, Anthony. Cars lining up on the grid ahead of our first 18-minute plus one lap race, and it is Mark Inman in the Vauxhall VX220 on pole, with Will Ashmore's Honda Civic alongside. Then it's Robert Taylor and Ian Fletcher ahead of Ed Fuller and Mark White, with Ed McKean and Darren Howe rounding out the top 8. Then it's Chris Slater and Ben Grundy, Paul Waterhouse and Simon Frowen. Podium finishes from earlier in the year ahead of Tom Sykes and Simon Skirton. Then it's Daniel Smith, Chris Dancer, John Mitchell and Simon Barlow at the back. So the Vauxhall VX220, the red car of Mark Inman on pole position, double winner from Silverstone, Will Ashmore on the inside of row number 1 as we launch off the line, and what a start it was from the Hornet, the Fletcher Hornet of Ian Fletcher, who goes into second place and then challenges Mark Inman for the race lead as they charge through turn 1 for the first time of asking. Everyone away from the line cleanly though, which is good to see. Simon Frowen there in the Fiesta working his way through in car number 33, but here is the lead battle. It's Inman that leads the way, Fletcher's second, Ashmore coming back at them round the outside, but it will be the VX220. Mark Inman looking for his first win of the year, who leads them through the first corner. Mark raced with us at Alton Park, missed Silverstone, the second race meeting of the year, but is here at Rockingham and looking to try and get onto the top step of the podium for the first time. Everyone else skating through. There's the Mark 1 Escort of Chris Dancer. Great variety of cars out there in a championship that really does race for a good cause. On board with Will Ashmore, looking up the inside of Fletcher for second place here as we dive down into Kirby. Great mix of sports cars, saloon cars, hatchbacks, front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, front engine, mid-engined. Everything you can think of, every possible configuration you can think of, more or less, is out there on the track, and it is a three-way fight for the race lead as they come through Gracelands for the first time, with Mark Inman just about hanging on for Ian Fletcher in second, sideways there in fourth position as here comes the move for Fletcher. Ooh, couldn't quite do it in towards the Tarzan hairpin, forces Inman in a bit deep, but then he too follows him in a little bit deep. That was Mark White, by the way, who I think was getting sideways in fourth place, the winner from Alton Park first time out, the second race of the day at Alton Park he won. Look how close it is at the head of the field, with no one really getting away from each other, but now we're about to go out into the banking for the first time, and this is where we start to see which cars have the straight line speed advantage, and that Fletcher of the Fletcher Hornet to Ian Fletcher does look pretty rapid, doesn't it? Look at that, he's gapping the Civic behind, but there's not that much to choose actually between the lead contenders. Fifth position there, you can see the BMW of Robert Taylor, which started third. Robert Taylor is also looking for his first podium of the season so far, but I think it might be Robert's first appearance with the Armed Forces Race Challenge in 2018. Inman though seems to have fended off Fletcher for the time being. He's falling back into the clutches of Will Ashmore. As I said, double winner last time out at Silverstone, Ashmore, and therefore puts himself into a very competitive championship position. He's up there with the likes of Mark White, Chris Slater, Darren Howe, all fighting for the championship lead as we go into the second half of the season. It's only an 8-race season in the Armed Forces Race Challenge, and Will Ashmore dives to the inside of Fletcher down towards Kirby. He tried this on the opening lap. Has he made it stick on lap number 2? Fletcher has the traction though from the rear wheel drive kit car, and he's able to pull back in front. Brilliant stuff that though between the two of them. And the more they battle, the further away the race leader may be able to pull. That is Mark Inman in the VX220. But yes, this is an 8-race championship, 4 race meetings, 2 races at each meeting, and this is the third of those race meetings. So we're into the second half of the season now, championship points starting to become more significant. Here comes, who's that starting to make some progress then? That's Ed Fuller, starting 5th on the grid in the Caterham 7. Slipped down a bit off the line, which is strange. Caterham's usually very good off the line. He's had to fight his way back after a bit of a sluggish start. Leaders back across the start-finish line, and Inman now definitely getting away. The battling is going on behind him, and the more that they all trip over each other, particularly around such a tight technical circuit such as Rockingham, where each corner leads directly into another. And so if you do get yourselves involved in a dice, you're likely to lose quite a bit of momentum and therefore time to the cars around you. Like that was Robert Taylor making a move on the inside of Mark White. Yes, he does. And Mark White in car number 65 has to give way. As the BMW moves ahead, can Mark come back at him though? Knocked down into Yentwood, he can't. The first of these two tricky 90-degree right-handers. The second one actually goes beyond 90 degrees because you have the 90-degree apex here at Chapman, and then it just keeps on going before you flick it back through the left-right to Piff-Paff, which is where we know Will Ashmore is quick. And for the third lap out of 3, he dives up the inside of Ian Fletcher. Only this time he tries to bully his way to the apex first, which he does, and he takes over second place. So finally, Will Ashmore is back where he started in second position, but Ian Fletcher will try and come back at him if at all possible. Let's see how close they are as they come out of Gracelands for the third time. Nose to tail is the answer, and being caught, I would say, slightly by Robert Taylor in the BMW behind. Down onto the brakes into the Tarzan hairpin. Back out they go behind the paddock, behind the race school, down the school straight, so named because it goes behind the race school, but also because it's the start-finish line that is used for the race school here, and various other layouts of the Rockingham Speedway that are available to be used. We're using the International Super Sports Car long configuration, the longest possible configuration for racing here at Rockingham Motor Speedway. The Speed Bowl of the Midlands, and they're just starting to pair off slightly now. It looks as though Mark White is the man really starting to struggle for pace, but then he did qualify 6th and had a good start, and so whilst it's always pleasant to get a good start and gain loads of places off the line, you're then guaranteed near enough to spend the rest of your race defending from cars that were quicker than you in qualifying, and that is the case here. The Caterham of Ed Fuller qualified ahead of Mark White, not by very much. They shared the third row together, but it is the Caterham that possibly is a little better suited to the tight and technical infield section here. He dives to the inside late into Yentwood. There's no way through there for Ed Fuller, and so he has to settle back into line. Back through Chapman they go. Winners so far this year, I mentioned that Will Ashmore had won both of the races at Silverstone last time out. Well, Chris Slater was a winner at Alton Park, and so too was Mark White. Chris Slater is here this weekend in the Peugeot 306, but running a little bit further down the order, qualified only 9th, did the Alton Park race winner. But Chris Slater is still up there in the top 5 in the championship arriving at Rockingham, so he could rather do with working his way a little bit further up the order. See if we can check in with him in a moment. Here though comes a potential move for Ed Fuller up the inside of Mark White into Tarzan. The Caterham should be later on the brakes, but it takes some nerve to come from that far back, and I think that Ed decided that maybe it was better just to live to fight another day and not take too big a risk at this relatively early stage of the race. We're not quite halfway through this one yet. 18 minutes plus 1 lap of the races in the Armed Forces Race Challenge, run by the 750 Motor Club in 2018. They've run with for several seasons now, on and off. And that really suits the friendly camaraderie of the paddock in the Armed Forces Race Challenge. Whenever you get a group of drivers who have experienced the things that these drivers have, and teams that have experienced the things these teams have, there's always going to be a great sense of friendship between them all. Essentially, they're fierce competitors out on the circuit, but when they're back in the paddock, sat around barbecues on a nice sunny summer's evening, not that we've had one of those this weekend in Rockingham, but if ever that opportunity does arise, they are very good friends and a lot of respect for each other on and off the track. So back through Yentwood and Chapman they go again. Still nothing to choose. You can see the registration number on the Caterham 7 of Ed Fuller. That Caterham is road legal, and I believe you may actually drive it to and from the circuit. I know a lot of Caterham owners tend to do that. There will be other cars on this grid that are potentially race legal as well, but Caterham the most obvious. And as they come back out of Kirby, it is very close between these two. One car pulled off to the side of the road there, unfortunately. That is not making it any further, and that I believe might be Ben Grundy's Ford Fiesta Mark IV, which pulled off on the second lap of the race. He so far is the only non-runner. Simon Barlow was a non-starter in his MGZR. Unfortunately, he was due to line up at the back of the grid but had mechanical issues in qualifying. This battle still raging on though, and Ed Fuller again is alongside Mark White, and he might have done it this time. Yes, nicely done. Got the traction coming out of the corner. Rear-wheel drive versus front-wheel drive, of course, and the Caterham significantly lighter than the Civic, but of course the Civic has the road presence to just bully its way back alongside through the chicane. They run wheel to wheel through all 3 elements of the Brook chicane, which is something many professional racing drivers would struggle to do without making contact. But again, plenty of respect shown. The Caterham hangs on to the position, put full marks to Mark White there for not giving in, and he's going to try and come back at Fuller if he can through the banking at turn 1. possibly the Civic a bit quicker in a straight line, and that's what he's trying to use now to get to the inside down towards the Dean hairpin. Great racing between these two. He's later on the brakes than the Caterham as well, and as long as he stops the car for the apex, he might just be able to get his way back through. He does get it stopped, runs a little wide though, so here comes Fuller right back at him. Side by side again out of the corner, but this time Fuller's on the outside line, and I think that Mark White might finally have made that one stick, but that was a brilliant sequence of nearly half a lap's worth of side-by-side racing. They're not quite done yet though, because Ed Fuller, we know, is quick through this next sequence of corners, because this is where he started to build the challenge a lap ago. So brilliant stuff there. Lots of curb being used by Mark White as he came through the Piff Paff chicane. That camera shot there showing one of the joys of the Rockingham Motor Speedway from a spectator's point of view. You sit in the grandstand, you can see every single inch of a circuit that always produces good racing, because there are so many corners that lead directly into another. And so if you go for a move and it doesn't work, or if you're defending from someone, it really affects the rhythm of your race. Check in further back on car number 1. That is Paul Waterhouse, who has been on the podium once this year, back at Alton Park. Paul Waterhouse, another driver who potentially, with a bit more consistency, could have been a championship contender this year. He makes his way back around onto another lap as the race leader comes through to start lapping back markers already. And is Mark Inman leading the way. The fight for second is still raging, and this fight for fifth is very much still raging. Mark White is still in front, but here comes the Caterham of a head Fuller right back at him. Now, we said a lap ago that it was the Civic that seemed to have the edge in a straight line. Can the Caterham draw back alongside this time? We'll find out in a moment though, because for now we ride on board with the second place man, Will Ashmore, as he works his way through that double apex left-hander at the Dean hairpin, and then runs down into Yentwood, back marker in front. That's one of the many Fiestas out on the grid. Try and catch a glimpse of the number as we go through. 62 that was, wasn't it, of Daniel Smith. His Ford Fiesta, running in Class C. And safely negotiates the slower car. Daniel Smith running within the RAF class of the championship. The championship split into several different classes for the various different areas of the armed forces. So the Army, the Royal Navy and Marines, Vets, the RAF, all have their own classes to race amongst as well, and their own point system and their own championship standings as well to look at the end of the year. And there is also a teams championship for the various elements of the armed forces. The veterans at the moment, I can tell you, are leading that over the Army, the RAF. So again, it's one of those just quirky, different championships in the UK, and to my knowledge, there isn't another country out there that has a sanctioned championship such as this one. It's great to see so many teams and drivers getting behind it now, as well as it starts to find a firmer footing within the motorsport community in the UK. So this battle between Civic and Caterham still raging on, neither of them making friends with the apex town at Kirby, but by taking that wide line you are at least able to straighten the wheel up a bit earlier and sort of get out of the corner a bit quicker, I suppose, but it's not textbook driving. Nonetheless, we're getting deep into this race now. We are into the second half of the race, and a few of the drivers maybe just starting to make a few mistakes under pressure. Here comes Fuller up the inside. Is he a bit more committed on the brakes this time? Sort of hovers down the inside line, but not enough to really command the corner for his own, so he stays in line. They're about to put a lap on the Mark 1 Escort of Chris Tanser. I thought we'd lost Ed Fuller for a moment there, so close was he tucked behind the Civic of Mark White. Of course, that very, very small shape of the Caterham 7 hiding quite stealthily behind the Civic. I'm fairly sure Mark White knew he was there though. He will be very aware of the pressure that he's under at the moment. The road, I can tell you, it's still Mark Inman leading the way from Will Ashmore in second. Will in turn is getting away slightly now from that third place battle between Ian Fletcher and Robert Taylor, excuse me. They are circulating less than a second apart though, so battles right the way down the order. We've been following this titanic battle for fifth place, which is just spaced out again slightly now into the Dean hairpin, but then Mark White outbrakes himself, runs wide, gets back to the second apex, which is okay as long as the car behind you hasn't slipped up the inside already, in which case you turn straight into them, but thankfully for Mark, Ed Fuller wasn't quite close enough to do that on that occasion. So still it is the Civic that hangs on to fifth position. Just back through the Piff Paff again, lots of curb being used there, and then avoid that rectocell barrier on the inside through the right-hand kick, which won't do too much damage to your car, but it can still tear a bumper off if you catch it at those sort of speeds. Back over the dotted white lines that denote the transition from the Super Sports Car long circuit to the traditional Super Sports Car circuit that's used for things like the British Touring Car Championship. Oh, very, very close indeed there through Gracelands, and here we go again. Fuller always carries good speed out of that left-hander, but he's never quite close enough or quite late enough on the brakes to get up the inside through Tarzan. He gets a much better exit though than Mark White, and I think he's made that one stick before they get anywhere near the Brook chicane, so good move made there. Back with our front runners, and this is the fight for second that's almost developing now. Ian Fletcher closing in on Will Ashmore. He's back away now from Robert Taylor in the BMW Compact, so as he's not been under as much pressure from the car behind, so he's been able to focus out in front of him more than looking in his mirrors. And a very, very wide line there by Ashmore, but an even wider line by Fletcher. So in the end, not much gained, but that rear-wheel drive Fletcher Hornet Mark IV does look a little bit quicker at this stage of the race. Maybe the rear-wheel drive car just looking after its tyres a bit better. It is, I think, better suited to the technical challenges of the infield here. You can see that Ashmore's car is not looking particularly comfortable to drive, and therefore not quite as quick. They're not a million miles further back from the race leader Mark Inman at this stage either, so Inman being kept reasonably honest, and as he starts to get into the traffic, he will be aware, certainly, that these two are not a million miles back. Trip up over a back marker, and all of a sudden they'll be breathing down his neck, so he's got to keep pushing. Fletcher's certainly pushing though as he tries to get up the inside of Ashmore into Gracelands. Can't do it on the way in. What about on the way out? Down towards Tarzan. That car is good on their brakes. He goes for a real late lunge up the inside, and Ian Fletcher is about to go through into second place, or is he? Ashmore tries to fight back, gets the power down on the wide sweeping line out of the corner, and then commands the inside line down the school straight. So Ashmore back in front, moves over to cover again in the braking zone into the chicane, trying to avoid those big sausage curbs though that can do a fair bit of damage to your car if you're not too careful. Ian Fletcher looking like one of the raciest drivers out there in this one. Really keen to try and find a way through, if at all possible. So a couple of minutes left on the clock, plus that one extra lap of course, so we've still got maybe 2 or 3 laps left in this one. And still, second place could go one of two ways. Back down into the Dean hairpin they go, and Ashmore smartly defends the inside line. Now there's a back marker about to get in the mix here. This could change things around slightly. That is Thomas Sykes, I believe, in the BMW, and Fletcher takes full advantage. Look at that, goes around the outside of Ashmore and goes right round the outside of Yenwood. Brilliant move that was by Ian Fletcher, and he is into second position. So can Ashmore fight back though? This is where Ashmore is quick. Remember, he passed Fletcher down here a little bit earlier on in the race. He takes a lot of curb though that time through the piff-paff chicane, and Fletcher is wise to the move, so he defends the inside line, but then runs a bit wide as a result. Can't get either apex, but still gets good squirt out of the corner. Someone kicks up the dust further up the road, but that was perfectly read situation there by Ian Fletcher. Saw that Ashmore might have gone the wrong way as he was trying to get past the back marker, and indeed that seemed to be the case. The Mini of Simon Skirton is the next car to go a lap down to these two. He's already gone a lap down to the leader. Simon Skirton started 14th, that's roughly where he's running now, maybe a place or two higher with a couple that have run into difficulties. And Ian Fletcher is getting away now from Ashmore, although he gets a bit balked there by the Mini, which wasn't necessarily quite as aware of what was going on in his mirrors as Ian Fletcher would have liked. Simon Skirton with his own race to run, novice cross on the back of his car as well, telling us that he's reasonably inexperienced racer. Last lap board goes out though to Mark Inman. Vauxhall VX220 driver is looking good for his first victory of the season. In fact, it will improve upon his previous best finish of 6th back at Alton Park. So this is a much improved performance from Mark Inman, and it will put him well and truly up there in the championship now as well. So he heads down into Yenwood for the final time. Nothing but traffic to worry about over the final lap, but as we've just seen, traffic can have a part to play in the way these races pan out. Really right-hander there at Chapman, back through the piff-paff section, and then into the double apex right-hander at Kirby. They're about another lap on the number 62 Ford Fiesta of Daniel Smith, which he does so now. Nicely done on the inside there into Gracelands. It's been a faultless performance this from Mark Inman. Started on pole, was never really headed, it has to be said, by the cars behind. and he's about to bring it home, a race winner. Looks like Ian Fletcher has seen off the challenge of Will Ashmore for second place as well. There you can see him in the background in the yellow Fletcher Hornet. But into the final chicane for the final time, Mark Inman, and it's going to be the perfect way to start the weekend. Can he make it the double in race number 2? Well, we'll find out a bit later on, but Mark Inman comes out of the final turn, sees the checkered flag and takes his first victory of 2018. A great measured drive from the Vauxhall VX220 driver, and he takes the race win. Brilliant drive from Mark Inman, and he will be looking to double up later on. Certainly so far, it doesn't look like many people have got the pace to challenge him. So, race victory for Inman. And second place we're hearing across the line was Will Ashmore by several seconds actually over Ian Fletcher. Here's confirmation. Look, it's Inman from Ashmore from Fletcher, so I don't know what happened there. Robert Taylor fourth from Ed Full at fifth, then it's Mark White, Ed McKean, Darren Howe, Chris Slater and Paul Waterhouse rounds out the top 10 ahead of Simon Frowen and Simon Skirton 11th and 12th, Thomas Sykes 13th, then John Mitchell, Daniel Smith and Chris Dancer. We lost Ben Grundy and Simon Barlow was a non-starter.
Well, Mark, frantic race. I thought Ian had you at the start, but you've got a great straight line speed.
Yeah, it's I got a good start, although it did wheel spin a bit first. It's slippier than it is on other tracks, and I knew I had to keep him behind while I got some heat in the tyres. Thankfully did, and then he got in a battle with Will, which held them both up and gave me that chance to get a bit of a gap.
Yeah, it's a nice combination of fast sections, especially on the oval, and then you go into that tight, twisting technical section in the middle. It's quite a contrast. Yeah,
we've come from Silverstone last time, Silverstone National, which is a triangle of straights. So corners is where my car lives. So I was looking forward to coming here. I like this circuit as well. And that's it, I put it on pole and then drove from the front to the win.
So, well done there. For now, go and enjoy it.
Thank you very much.
Ian, what a start, first of all. The car's not quite got the straight line speed, hitting the rev limit all the way down the back straight.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I started with the gearing with it. I can't get the gearing any better, really. Yeah, so I just have to live with it. It's about, because this is also, the classes are based on like power to weight. I've just got 119 brake horsepower, but I don't weigh much either. So yeah, I suffer a little bit on the straights, but it picks it back up generally through the corners.
Because it's very light, what's it like through the corners? It looks like it's on skates.
Yeah, it is. It's great. As long as it's not wet, it adds really good through the corners.
Yeah. And a great field behind you as well.
Yeah.
Well, for now, you're smiling. Go and enjoy. Well done.
Okay, thanks very much.
Well, frantic race. It's a great track to race on. It's a great thing to be involved with.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a very frantic race between me and Billy, at least. Just got a bit of a poor start off the line, which meant Mark was gone. He's got a real good car off the line. But otherwise, we're normally pretty well matched. But yeah, between me and Billy, we're battling throughout. Good few overtakes. I was having a few oil starvation issues around the bank, which an engine was cutting out, so he'd catch me by turn 2, and then we'd have a good battle through the infield. And I was also trying to show off jumping the sausage curbs, trying to get that photo on 2 wheels, but in a result that was bending a steering arm, so not a great result from that, so I've got to fix that before the next race.
What can you do about the oil starvation?
The sump is baffled anyway to stop the oil sort of flowing away from the pickup, so it should be stopping that. Maybe I need to put in a bigger flow oil pump, I'm not too sure, but something I certainly need to look at.
Yeah, well, we can't wait to see what happens in race 2, but for now, go and enjoy third place. Well done.
Yeah, thanks so much. Cheers.